Okay, so in this video, I'm going to attempt to show you a kind of a trial and error approach. But there aren't too many trials to take. There are only a few, as you'll see. Um, but basically, every percent problem, percent is a ratio, something divided by 100. The fact that it's a ratio tells us that we're dealing with multiplication and division, some combination of multiplication and division. So addition and subtraction are not going to be involved here. So really, multiplication and division are the only two trials that you really have to see which one makes more sense. So let's focus first on, I've got three problems here. We're going to focus on them one at a time. I'll pull these guys down here and get them out of the way for a second. What number is 5? You know what? I'll put these on another page and go back. I'll put this one on the page here, and now we'll just go back and tackle these one at a time. What number is 5% of 6? Well, we've got two quantities in this problem. We've got 5%, and we've got 6. Okay? Now, 5% of 6, think first of all, is this going to be, is this number, how is the number that's 5% of 6 going to compare to 6? Is it going to be bigger than 6 or smaller than 6? I hope you realize it's going to be smaller than 6, much smaller than 6. 5% is a pretty small fraction. So it's going to be a small fraction of 6. Now, probably this one is pretty straightforward. 5% of 6 is just 5% of 6. It's just 5/100 times 6, which you could also write as 0.05. That's 5/100 times 6. Okay? Now, if you didn't see that, well, change one of these two quantities to a number that is very easy to calculate in your head, and then figure out how you would calculate that if it weren't the easy number. So suppose we change it to, let's say it was 50% of 6. Okay, well, we know that 50% of 6 is 3. So how in the world do you get 3 from 50% and 6? Well, is it, we first try multiplication and see if it works, and then try division to see if it works. But 50%, 0.5 times 6, does that work? Yes, of course it does. 0.5 times 6 is 3. So why not try multiplication first, because it's the easiest, right? And in this case, multiplication works. Now, how about 5 is what percent of 6? This one's not so straightforward. Now, 5 is what percent of 6? Is the percentage going to be more than 100% or less than 100%? Ask yourself that first of all. 5 is not all of 6, so it's going to be less than 100%. Okay? So, is it going to be more than 50% or less than 50%? Well, 5 is more than half of 6, so it's going to be more than 50%. So, now, again, what about, let's change one of these numbers. Let's pretend that this was 3. 3 is what percent of 6? Well, in that case, the answer would be 50%. 3 is 50% of 6. Okay, well, let's take it back to then the original problem, and we'll know. How do you get 50% from 3 and 6? So you've got the number 3, and you've got the number 6. How do you get 50% from this? Does it work if you do 3 times 6? Well, that's 18. That has nothing at all to do with 50%. The number 18, nothing at all. In addition, multiplication is commutative, so it wouldn't matter which order you multiply it in. How about 3 divided by 6? 3 divided by 6 is 1/2, or 0.5. 1/2, oh, 0.5, hey, that's 50%. So the way you do it must be divide this guy by this guy. 3 divided by 6. So the original problem was 5%. 5 is what percent of 6. So since to find what percent 3 was of 6, by deduction, or by trial and error, we figured out we have to take 3 and divide it by 6. Well, so take the 5 and divide it by 6. And do a little long division if necessary, and you're going to end up with 0.83, and the 3 is repeated. So that's 83%, or 83.3 repeated, but it's approximately 83%. Okay? Now finally, 6 is 5% of what number? Okay, let's do a change up here. Let's change this to 50%. 6 is 50% of what number? Well, we know the answer to that would be 12. So 6 and 50%. Well, think of 50% as 0.05. I'm sorry, 50%, sorry, as 0.5. And how are we going to get the answer 12 from the number 6 and the number 0.5? Does 6 times 0.5 work? No. 6 times 0.5 equals 3. So it's not that. How about 6 divided by 0.5? How many 0.5s does it take to add up to 6? Guess what? That's 12. So this is the method to use. We took this and divided it by that percent. So the original problem, 6 is 5% of what number? To figure out 50% of what number, we took 6 and divided it by 50%. So we're going to take 6 and divide it by 5%. 6 divided by 5%, or 0.05. How many 0.05s does it take to make 6? Well, again, this is not a division lesson, but if 6 divided by 0.5 is 12, then 6 divided by 0.05 is 120. So change one of the parts of the problem to something that's easy to calculate. Figure out how to calculate it using the easier number, and then go back and do that exact same thing with the not so easy number. And that should always work as well.